Hello everyone, FPL Wrapped here, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 35 team selection, and there are only 4 game weeks left now, so every single transfer and decision matters. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe, but without further ado, let's jump into it. So I'm recording this directly after the Manchester United-Brighton game, and therefore apologies if I don't look my usual happy self. I am a Manchester United fan, so that was a painful few minutes for me at the end there. And it was an otherwise really positive week for me in FPL, but that's just put a little bit of a dampener on the entire football for me. But let's look at FPL instead. 124 points this week, which is actually just about enough to push me back into the top 10k. So I'm currently ranked 9,979th. And I'm just hoping in the final 4 game weeks that I can remain inside the top 10k, and I would be absolutely delighted with that finish. Looking at game week 34 in particular, the defense pulled through massively for me. We'll start with Ederson. What a disaster. Feel free to laugh at me in the comments. I don't mind at all. This season has been terrible. If you followed my content all season, it's not just this transfer, and I brought him in this week. It's the fact that I kept playing him instead of Kepa in weeks where Kepa was getting those 9, 10, 11 pointers. Ederson has just been a massive troll for me. Do not let me buy Ederson next season in FPL. If I recommend buying Ederson, or if I tell you I'm going to buy Ederson, please tell me not to do it, because he doesn't make any saves. I actually genuinely don't think he's a particularly good goalkeeper, and he just finds ways to not get points, and it's really frustrating. So I'm not very happy. A lot of you did tell me not to bring him in, but it just looks so good for clean sheets, but he just doesn't get them. And then the frustrating thing was that Ortega then come in, and then Man City keep a clean sheet when Ederson doesn't play. So it's classic FPL really. But the rest of the defense pretty good. Luke Shaw, 8-pointer, could have been a lot more. Estepinian, 16 points, lots of bonus points, got an assist in there too, clean sheets. And Trent is just looking so good in that attacking role, which we'll discuss in the next section. But 11 points from him was brilliant. The midfield mostly returned. Salah, McAllister, Grealish and Rashford all returned. Matoma, the only disappointing one, which is surprising. McAllister and Matoma obviously benched in the first game of 34. And it looked like McAllister and Matoma were both going to blank in the second game. Obviously, McAllister scoring the last-minute penalty wasn't good from a fan perspective for me, but that actually gave me the rank boost up into the top 10k. Before that, even with a Luke Shaw clean sheet, I was ranked about 12, 13k. So the McAllister goal was actually good for my FPL team. Salah 18-pointer was massive. Well done if you had the courage to go against HAALAND captain. You probably didn't gain many points. You only gained a few points if you captained Salah, but it was still probably worth doing. So it does show that in a single week, you can definitely outscore HAALAND with a differential captain. So for those of you that are chasing for the final 4 weeks, I'm not sure I would massively recommend it, but there are going to be opportunities to go against him, and hopefully this proves that you don't have to captain HAALAND every single week. That being said, HAALAND's 16-pointer. The man is so consistent. I'll probably continue to captain him myself. And then Isak coming away with a 7-pointer despite only getting a single assist. If you remember on the deadline stream, I had a massive debate. Do I start Isak? Do I start Trippier? Isak got me an extra 5 points, which was, again, the difference between being in the top 10k and not. So I'm delighted with that. And in general, I think I had a really good week. I think there were some decent decisions. I didn't take the hit, which actually ended up paying off because of the McAllister goal. And obviously a little bit of luck as well. But I'm absolutely delighted to be back inside the top 10k. Fingers crossed, like I said, for the final 4 weeks, I don't leave it ever again. Let's now take a look at my team for Game Week 35 and what my current transfer plans are. So looking ahead to Game Week 35, I've currently got 0.5 million in the bank and 1 free transfer. Of course, we have double Game Week 36 and double Game Week 37, which we'll discuss in the final section. So if you don't need to do anything in 35, it may well be worth saving a transfer just so that you can attack those doubles in 36 and 37. For example, as we'll discuss in a second, it might be that you're currently on double Newcastle defence, but you actually want to move to Isak and Wilson. Well, then it might be worth, again, rolling a transfer into 36. So these are some of the things to think about. I know we've only got 4 weeks left, and as a result, you might want to get aggressive with it and make every single week count. But this is a single game week. You've got doubles in 36 and 37. It might be that you have a better opportunity to be more aggressive in those doubles. We'll discuss that again throughout when we look at my team. So I do currently have Ederson in goal. I think he will continue to start for Man City. I think that was a one-off. But if he doesn't, I've got Raya against Liverpool on the bench, which isn't ideal. In hindsight, it wasn't a great transfer, but I would still make that transfer in most weeks. It was a double game week keeper with really good fixtures, playing for one of the best defenses in the league. So on paper, it looked like a decent decision, but I'm not expecting anything from this man. I've given up hope, to be honest. I guess I could start Raya because realistically, we probably expect Leeds to have a few chances to score, and we probably expect that Brentford will concede too. I guess it's who do you think will make more saves? Raya is a save points machine. I mean, he gets about 4.5 to 5 saves per game. Against Liverpool, he's probably going to pick up 2 points through saves alone. Maybe if he gets a clean sheet, it could be a big one. But I think I've got to start Ederson really when you look at the fixture. And then, like I said, if he doesn't play, I've got Raya coming on. Looking at the defence, I've got 3 very attacking fullbacks. However, Luke Shaw is playing centre-back at the moment, but he's doing very well there. I know he kind of capitulated towards the end of the Brighton game, giving away the penalty and getting the yellow card. But other than that, he was exceptional. And Luke Shaw is really, really, really good for bonus points when he's playing centre-back. We've seen that all season when he plays centre-back. In game week 34, he was on for 2 bonus points, only behind Jason Steele, who had made like 6 saves at that point. He will get you 3 bonus points more often than not when he's playing centre-back if he keeps a clean sheet. So I actually quite like him at centre-back, to be honest, because he still does take some set pieces too. And sometimes he'll push on and whip in an early cross. So I really don't mind Luke Shaw at centre-back. I suppose the only issue with Shaw this week is that West Ham are actually flying at the moment. They're doing really, really well. They've got into a decent run of form towards the back end of the season. And Manchester United are struggling a little bit. So as you can see on the bench, I've got Trippier and Botman. I am slightly tempted to start Trippier against Arsenal, especially as I don't have any Arsenal attackers. So it's not like I've got like Martinelli and Saka and I say, do you know what, I'm going to back the Arsenal goal. I don't have any Arsenal attackers. So maybe I back the Newcastle clean sheet and put Shaw on the bench. I'll have to have a little bit of a think about that. Estepinian against Everton at home is a really good fixture. He has been looking very attacking. If you watched the Brighton-Manchester United game, he had a few chances for returns. He obviously got an assist in the first game of game week 34 too. So I really, really like the look of Estepinian moving forward, and I'm very happy to have him ahead of the likes of Duncan Still. Jason Still has been making quite a few saves, but I still think that Estepinian's the better Brighton defender to own. And then the final in the starting 11 is Trent. Trent is just, like I said, been so attacking. Is he going to get an assist 6 games in a row now? We'll have to wait and see, but it's just been so, so good. And his data is ridiculous. If you're interested, it's about a 0.6, 0.7 expected goal involvement, which is better than most of the attackers in our teams. So he's more attacking than most of our attackers, plus the chance for a clean sheet. And obviously he gets more points for goals and more likely to get bonus points too. So I really, really like Trent. If you still don't own Trent, I wouldn't say the ship has sailed, but obviously no remaining doubles now for Liverpool. But the remaining 4 fixtures for Liverpool are pretty strong. So I still feel like if you've got the opportunity to go there, I would be tempted. But you might want to save your transfers to bring in players that double. Maybe that's a better use of them. For example, Newcastle and Brighton assets next week. But I'm very, very happy having Trent. So I actually think if Ederson plays and hopefully keeps clean sheet, I actually think the defence is looking pretty good. The only thing I'm a bit unsure, like I said, is that double Newcastle defence on the bench. So let me know down below, would you play Trippier ahead of Luke Shaw or Estepinian? I wouldn't do it ahead of Trent anyway, but maybe ahead of Luke Shaw or Estepinian? Or do you think we just back Arsenal to score and focus on the fixtures instead? I would love to know what you think down below. So moving on to the midfield, I'm actually very happy with the midfield this week. We've got 3 home fixtures plus Rashi against West Ham away. We'll actually start with Rashford. Continues to look really, really good for Manchester United. If we score goals, he's going to be involved. I suppose the issue at the moment is we're not scoring a ton of goals, Manchester United. So that's not necessarily a massive issue because I suppose you only need 1 goal for Rashford to score and get bonus points. And he's involved in such a high percentage of our goals. But you would like to see Manchester United scoring 2 or 3 goals per game. And as a result, Rashford has that chance to kind of mega haul. At the moment, it looks like 1 return maximum per game just because we're not looking great in attack. We're just not quite clicking at the moment. So I like Rashford. I don't think Rashford's essential this week, but going into game week 37, of course, Manchester United have another double. I feel like if you don't own Rashford, maybe look to bring him in for double game week 37. But for now, if you don't own him already, I think you're fine. I'm obviously not going to be selling him this week. I've got the double Brighton midfield, Matoma and McAllister. At the moment, McAllister's on the bench. I'll actually bring back the McAllister discussion when we move on to the forwards because I have the opportunity to play McAllister instead of one of my 3 forwards. I don't think I would play him ahead of any of my midfielders at the moment. The only reason that I would potentially play McAllister instead of one of my midfielders is if we get early team news that Grealish isn't starting. Manchester City is the early kickoff. There is a chance that we get some early team news around that. And if I get any inkling or nod that Grealish isn't going to start, maybe I will play McAllister. The issue is McAllister is just continuing to play in a deep role. Obviously, very lucky, not lucky, but I guess lucky, fortunate to get the penalty in game week 34. He's not going to get a penalty every single week. And he does take a few long shots, but he's not getting into the box an awful lot at the moment. So if he plays defensive midfield and the rest of my attackers all start, I don't see a massive value in starting him ahead of them. So that's the things I need to think about at the moment. But for now, McAllister's on the bench. I've got Grealish starting instead. Grealish has looked exceptionally good at the moment, and his data continues to be pretty okay. It's about a 0.5, 0.6 expected goal involvement. It's not blowing us out of the water, but he's getting a lot of starts at the moment. And as long as he continues to start, I think he will continue to get opportunities to return in FPL. So as long as he starts in 35, Grealish will be in the team. Do tune into the deadline stream on Saturday morning, and hopefully we'll get some early team news around whether Grealish, and as we'll discuss in a second, HAALAND starts as well. The 5th and final midfielder is Mohamed Salah. I want to say briefly, Very unfortunate to those that went for KDB ahead of Salah. I was very, very jealous of everyone that owned KDB, and he looked like an exceptionally good option for Game Week 34. We obviously didn't know about the injury before the deadline, so very unfortunate there. I still feel like if they're both fit, KDB could match Salah. The issue is, yes, KDB is starting to come back into training now. Is he going to be rested for Real Madrid? We don't know. Hopefully, Pep will give us something in the press conference, or again, hopefully we get early team news. But I'm delighted to own Salah. Salah feels like he's starting to get back towards how good he was in previous seasons. He's not quite there yet, but he still is on penalties, which is a massive bonus for him. And he's starting to improve his data and get some more big chances too. So I feel like for the final 4 game weeks, as I said with Trent, really nice fixtures for Liverpool. I'm feeling confident having Salah in my team. So that's the midfield. Let's move on to the 3 forwards and discuss my general transfer plans. So moving on to the 3 forwards, and we'll start with Erling Haaland. A lot of people predicting Haaland at the moment to be benched in Game Week 35. And if you do look at City's overall schedule, the amount of games that they've played and the games coming up, this is the fixture that you would probably bench Haaland if you're going to rest him. But resting him doesn't necessarily mean benching him. And sometimes people get confused by that. 30 minutes for Haaland off the bench at the end is very similar to him starting and playing 45. So I do think that his minutes will be reduced this week. But I still think that he's going to start if I was to guess right now. The good thing is, as I said in the Grealish section, we do have City as the early kickoff, and there are quite a few people that now get early City team news. So there is a good chance that we get some early City team news around Haaland, and that will allow us to make an informed decision on whether to start and captain. I will be completely honest, even if I know that Haaland is on the bench, I will still start him in my FPL team, because 30 minutes of Haaland against Leeds could be absolute devastation. So I still really, really want to start him regardless, but I would switch the armband to Salah. So that's the only difference that would be in my team. I would just switch the armband. So let's hope that we get early team news. Do tune into the deadline stream to find out if we get that early team news. But for now, Haaland's got the armband. I still think there's a good chance that he starts, probably scores a hat-trick and then comes off at half-time. The other 2 forwards, I'm in a very tricky position because there are reasons to start both, as I'll discuss, and there are reasons to bench both. And then, like I said, I do have McAllister and Trippier, and I'd be pretty happy starting either. Probably, actually, it would be McAllister coming in for one of them. So we'll start with Isak. Isak, in a normal week against Arsenal, I would say it's a tricky fixture. He's a little bit of a minutes risk. I think I'll start McAllister instead. But Isak has been so good recently. He is taking penalties for Newcastle when Wilson isn't on the pitch. When Wilson is on the pitch, I still think Wilson will be first choice, but we don't know that 100% every single week. So there's a chance Isak takes penalties. Really strong data, good run of form as well. And Arsenal have got defensive injuries. So we've got Saliba out long-term, obviously, as we know, and Gabriel could be out for Game Week 35 too. That's going to be a makeshift Arsenal defence against a strong Newcastle team at home that are scoring a lot of goals at the moment. I'm backing Newcastle to score a couple of goals here at the least. So I think I want to start Isak, and I think I want to bet on there being quite a few goals in this game. Obviously, when 2 top teams play against each other, it could be a bit of a stalemate. It could be like a 1-0, 0-0 game. I wouldn't be surprised. But I think I'm going to bet on a lot of goals, which is why at the moment I've got Trippier and Botman on the bench, and I'm starting Isak. Let me know down below. Feel free to have a prediction. What do you think the Arsenal-Newcastle score will be? Are you predicting a lot of goals as well, or do you think it'll be quite a tight affair? For me, I'm hoping there are lots of goals, and I'm hoping Isak is involved in them. Then we'll move on to Watkins. This is a little bit of a trickier one for me. Watkins has obviously been really good. He loves playing away. He went on that insane run of scoring away from home. Villa are actually decent away as well. And his data's really, really strong. And he's on penalties. There are loads of reasons to want to start Watkins. The only reason where I would potentially say I don't necessarily want to start him is Wolves are actually really good defensively at home. So I had a quick look into this. They are the 5th best defence in the league at home for expected goals conceded post-World Cup. And across the entire season, they are still in the top half of the table for expected goals conceded. So by all accounts, Wolves are, at home, a top half of the table, pushing European side for their defensive numbers. The thing is, though, we don't necessarily need Villa to score loads of goals. As I said with Rashford, if Villa score 1 goal, I would expect Watkins to be involved in some way. So we don't need Villa to go and score 4 or 5 goals at Molineux. All we need is 1. We need Watkins to score that, and he could come away with a 9-pointer. So whilst I'm not expecting tons of goals in this game, and I do think the Wolves are pretty good defensively at home, I am still expecting that Villa will have the chance to score. And as a result, I probably need to start Watkins ahead of McAllister, because really the only benefit for McAllister, at the moment anyway, when he's playing in this role, is the fixture's decent, which we need to take into consideration, and he's on penalties. But if Watkins and Isak are also on penalties, Isak might not be, but we know Watkins is, then that again removes the advantage of potentially starting McAllister. So at the moment, I can't really give a reason to start McAllister instead of any of my other 7 attackers. Obviously, if we find out that Grealish is benched, that makes my decision a lot easier. If Grealish is benched, I'll just put McAllister in instead of Grealish. So that's really it for me with the decisions this week. It's just around, do I switch the armband I'll want to wait and find out if Haaland starts or not. And then do I find a way to get Trippier in potentially instead of Luke Shaw, and then McAllister in? It would probably be instead of Ollie Watkins, but I just don't think I want to do that. I think I'm happy with the way the team is. When it comes to transfers, there aren't many transfers that I can think of that would really improve my team for this week. I look at it, I'm not necessarily perfectly happy with all 11, but there aren't any transfers that would, with just one, without taking a hit, would massively improve my team this week. But when I look ahead to 36, which we're going to do in a second, there are some things I could do. I could bring in Solly March potentially for McAllister if we think he'll continue to play deep. I could switch from double Newcastle defence to double Newcastle attack and get Wilson in for Watkins and then sell Botman for another player. That would require 2 transfers. So I'm actually looking ahead and thinking there are things in future weeks that would make more sense to use my transfers on than just forcing a transfer this week for the sake of trying to be aggressive with it. So I think at the moment the plan's probably to roll. In the next section, we'll look at 36, 37, and 38 as well, and look at where we might use those transfers if we do roll. But let me know down below what you think around my benching decisions and whether you would find a way to get McAllister into the starting 11. So in this final section, just going to look ahead to the final 4 games. God, I feel very sad, to be honest, that the season's coming towards an end. I've actually really enjoyed this season, to be fair. I know a lot of other people haven't, especially with the World Cup break, but I very much enjoyed it. So only 4 game weeks left now. In 35, let's say I do indeed roll the transfer. Moving ahead to game week 36, I don't actually need a transfer again, but I would have 2 free transfers. So I've got a few possible things that I could do with my team here. The first is McAllister to March. I do love McAllister, though. He is on penalties and set pieces, and there's always a chance that he goes back into that 10 role. So I'm still not overly keen on McAllister to March, but that is one option. The other option I've got is switching from Botman and Watkins to Wilson and a defender. The reason I like that is I think that Isak Wilson Trippier, I do think is the best Newcastle triple up to own for game week 36. And I just feel like Wilson has a higher ceiling than Botman. The issue is it worth 2 transfers to do that? Or do I potentially just use 1 transfer and then roll again into game week 37 and go into 37 with 2 free transfers? That might be the better play, because I've already got triple Brighton, triple Newcastle. Do I need to start using transfers to switch them around? If I don't make that switch to get Wilson in instead, realistically, it's just going to be a random transfer. It would probably end up being Watkins out for a striker that doubles in 37 or has a better fixture in 38, which we'll move on to in a second. That will probably be the way that I lean. So let's say that I use a transfer like that and I don't do a massive amount with my team. For 37, again, the team looks really strong. And as you can see, by 36, my bench is Grealish, Shaw, and Watkins. In 37, it's Trippier, Botman, and Watkins again. If I transfer Watkins out, it might be a slightly stronger player there. My bench is looking really strong. I don't need a transfer again. I've got Haaland, Ederson, and Grealish for the Man City triple up. I've got Rashford, Shaw, and I've got the triple Brighton. I guess I could try to get Bruno in for game week 37. But again, I just don't really want to sell any of my midfielders other than maybe McAllister. And I just don't think I want to make that switch to do McAllister to Bruno and then downgrade a striker. I just don't know if that's... I've only got so many transfers left now for the remainder of the season. I'm not sure that that's the best use of those free transfers. So these are the things that I'm thinking about. But for 37, the team's looking really strong. 38, it's not looking as strong, but it is still decent. Again, like there aren't any bad fixtures there. You might say on paper, Isak against Chelsea normally wouldn't be, but Chelsea are conceding goals for fun. Watkins against Brighton, and then obviously Estepinian against Villa, maybe not the best, but again, I could just simply play Trippier instead of Estepinian. So I don't really need a transfer for the remainder of the season. This is why it's a little bit boring, that for the final 4, you want to get aggressive with it, but you don't need a transfer. I guess that allows you luxury transfers. So whilst I don't need to make any, can I identify some positions where, no, I don't need to make a move, but it might be worth the upside of bringing in a slightly more differential player or a player with a slightly better fixture? The issue is, I don't want to do stuff just for the sake of it. Like, just because I've got transfers doesn't mean I should use those transfers. We call it action bias in psychology, but I don't think I need to rush anything through. Like I said, the only position where I'm looking and thinking it's not perfect is this week, I could just sell Watkins for someone and then keep them on the bench. I could move towards Wilson. The reason I'm not maybe a massive fan of that is then I have to double up on the Newcastle attack against Chelsea in 38. Again, that's not the end of the world. Chelsea aren't a fantastic defence. But I just wonder if that Watkins spot, is there someone else that I can bring in? I'll need to look into this. Let me know down below if there's a player that you really think will look good for maybe game week 37 and 38, maybe even for 36 too. But really, it's for that 38. I just want to try and have the best team possible. I could just keep rolling. using one transfer a week to just do the odd thing here, like maybe just downgrade Raya to Everson just to give me some more funds. 36 again, just do these like little transfers to roll, because it might be that come 37 I get an injury. Or I say, this is the week I'm going to get aggressive and use both my free transfers. So I guess I'm just playing it by ear at the moment. But if you see with my team, as I'm just scrolling through this, any clear and obvious transfer plans that you think I've missed out on, I would love to know. But I think the team's looking really strong. I've got 6 doublers for 36. We've got 8 doublers for game week 37. And then a decent team for game week 38. So there it is. The back end of the season looking good. We're into the top 10k. Hopefully the fact that the team looks good, and we've only got 4 game weeks left, and we're into the top 10k. Hopefully we can stay there and have a really strong end to the season. So that's the team. Like I said, let me know down below what you think of those transfer plans. So guys, there you have it. That is my game week 35 team selection and a look ahead to the final 4 game weeks of the season and how we plan on using those transfers. If you have enjoyed the content on this channel recently and across the entire season as well, please do drop a like. I would massively appreciate it. Let's go for 2,500 likes. Make sure to subscribe as well. I'm trying to hit 70,000 subscribers before the end of the season. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.